Hi, I got a question on one of my videos about the heaters. Now, I'm going to answer this question. Um, is Pattianne Pascual? I believe that's what you go by. If not, I apologize. I apologize also for the shaking. I'm holding the camera with my left hand. The question was, why not use a small pail? The video is crazy long. Just leave the stove on low flame and it will produce enough heat. Okay, first of all, most people do not have a small pail. That's basically the same thing as the can heater. Second of all, where I live in Montana, a small flame will get you froze to death. It does not produce enough heat. Um, Now, here's a question. Excuse me if the camera jumps. I do not have a lot of light in here. For some reason, my LED bulbs just are not working correctly. But what happens if you have no fuel, no gas, things like no candles? Okay, how can you produce heat to help you survive? I'm actually going to answer that. I hope you go by Patty. If not, I apologize. Say, this person wants to know how to produce heat with generally stuff around the house. Well, you really can't. Um, Heat has to come from somewhere. Either it's from an electric heater, propane stove, some type of natural gas, things like that, or even burning wood. Heat has to come from somewhere. Like I said in a response, you can't just take two spoons and rub them together and produce heat. It doesn't work that way. But this is for you. I'm going to tell you how some common items at home can help you out. You may or may not have some of these, but I'm going to try my best to give you a better chance, okay? And she said, or he, I apologize. I don't know if you're male or female. Um, we need DIY heaters with stuff available around the house. Now, basically, like I said, when I made my heaters, I used stuff from around the house for both the heaters and the heat shield. Now, remember, if you make one of these heaters, definitely try to have some type of heat shield over it if it is under like a cabinet, because the heater that I made, all of the heaters I made pretty much put heat 6 feet in the air, so you don't want it under anything without a heat shield. Now, if you have like a coffee table in the middle of the room, or you can move something out away from a wall where there's nothing burnable, perfect. You know, you don't want these going straight up underneath like, um, your cabinets or something like that. All right, and I'm going to show you exactly what you're making when you make one of these heaters. You're making something like this. All right, I don't know if you can see that. I apologize if you can't. Now, this is a basic camp stove heater. Now, you can order these offline, and the thing is, in a bad situation where there's 6 feet of snow, you can't get in or out to a store, then what are you going to do? Now, they did ask what happens if you have no fuel and can't get to a store to buy it. Well, I'm going to try to answer that the best I can to help you out. But this is generally what you are making. Something like this is generally what you're making that you can buy. Now, these are heaters specifically made for things like camping stoves. You can use them on propane stoves, things like that. So basically, you're making one of these heaters, okay? And once again, let's get back to the question. All right. First of all, leaving your flame on low, you're going to freeze to death. It's not going to work. Because what happens is, when you don't have something to concentrate and catch and concentrate that heat, it's just going to basically float off in the air and not produce any heat. You need something to catch that and more or less amplify it and then radiate the heat out. So yeah, leaving your stove on low is not going to help you in a situation. And if you can't leave to buy any fuel, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through some very simple basic things. I've already covered this with my response to them, um, about one or two things you can do. One, if you have empty cans, you can fill them with sand or dirt, stick them in a fire outside. Now, if you have a barbecue pit or something you can put those cans in to heat them up, you can do it that way. If you don't, you make an open fire outside, excuse me, and then you put those cans in your open fire and get them hot. Now, suppose you don't have access to sand or dirt. If you have a cat that uses natural cat litter, this is just clay cat litter, you can do this a variety of ways. Now, one is if you have paint cans with lids that seal and hammer on, you fill that paint can up with litter. You throw that litter in a fire outside. The litter's in the can. Now you leave the lid off. You want this stuff to get extremely hot with the lid off. And once it heats up, you pull that thing out of the fire, you beat the lid on it, and you take it inside. That's going to radiate heat for a good while this litter's still hot. You don't have a cat. Alright? Let's say you don't have a cat. There are dog people out there that wouldn't be caught dead with a cat. Another thing you can do is, now this is for extreme emergency heat. Just regular potatoes. You wrap them in foil, if you have foil. You throw them in a flame outside, in an open pit fire, and you get these extremely hot. Then you grab them out of the fire, and you bring them in the house, and the potatoes are going to be hot and radiate heat through the foil. That's another way that it can help you in a situation where you need heat. The last thing is, this is something you really have to be careful with. Most people will throw a can in a fire and open the end. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is take off the wrapper, throw the entire can or set the entire can out in your fire. This will get extremely hot. The inside water and stuff in your cans will start to boil, and you grab them out and you take them in the house. This will keep and retain heat for a good while, as long as it's not open. Now, you want to make sure you don't leave it in the fire too long. You just want it to be hot enough to where it starts heating up the fluid on the inside. And you can reuse the same cans in the fire outside. You don't want to make a fire inside unless you have to. Once again, do not put a hole in this can. You want to set it in your fire, and you want this to get hot, the inside to get hot, and then that will radiate heat when you bring it in the house. Very simple items, very simple to do. Now, what if you don't have access to a fire outside? There's very few things you can do for that. One, create a microclimate in your house. I don't care if you have to hang towels. I don't care if you have to cut up trash bags and tape them together. I don't care if you have to hang blankets off the wall. Make a microclimate or a smaller area for you to stay in. And if you have 3 or 4 people in there, a lot of your body heat is going to start warming that area up. If not, one of the heaters that I show you how to make is definitely going to warm that up in a hurry. Things like this that are already hot, if you take them outside, if not, well, you're going to have to do what you can do to survive. In a microclimate, bundle up with extra clothing and try to stay huddled as much as possible. Standard blankets, whatever you have to do to keep the warmth where you're at, nowhere else. You don't care about the rest of the house, you care about where you're at. Like I said, they said, you know, basically the heaters I made are nothing, really nothing, that will not produce any extra heat or make it warmer. And actually, they're wrong on that. Um, I wish they would build one for themselves and test it. Everything I've talked about and everything I make for trying to help people out, I try to help them out with stuff they already have at their house. A lot of people have foil, and if you don't have foil, a lot of people have cans. Um, I'm sure you can find a can or even some type of pot that it will fit on your stove if you need to use a pot or something. Um, but you also have to remember the thickness. Now, the reason the foil works so well is because cans will do the same job, but they're much, much thicker and much heavier material. So the foil, inside the foil, heats up quicker and it disperses heat quicker. So remember that if you have to make something. But once again, if you have no way to heat inside, you have to heat outside. And you have to have a way to get some things warm. Um, put some water and some type of metal container if you have a large 5-gallon bucket or something like that, and get that water boiling outside and put the lid on that big container or whatever you have, this metal. Bring that water, boiling water, in the pan, put the lid on it and sit around it. That'll produce heat. But once again, you cannot produce heat out of nowhere. And I think that's what they're asking is, what if you don't have fuel and you don't have a way to leave to buy any? Uh, they need heaters that more or less produce from stuff around the house. Now, can you make little heaters using batteries and things like paper clips? Not paper clips, excuse me, but yeah, paper clip. Um, yes, you can. You can put a paper clip on a 9-volt battery, and it'll get super hot for a very short amount of time, and then your battery's dead. Like I said, you can't get heat from nothing. You have to have something. Um, Once again, if you don't have a stove of any type and all you have is candles, go through my videos, go way back a year, 2 years, and I talk about how to make a heater using nothing but candles and foil to help you in a situation. Once again, creating a microclimate is your best option, even if you have a heater, because you're not heating the entire house, you're heating one small area. Okay? But anyway, this is for pattianne Pascual. I apologize if I butchered the name you go by. But once again, if you use any of these heaters whatsoever that I showed you how to make, I would even say using the can heaters, use or create or make some type of heat shield. That way the heat will not just go up, but it'll come out forward and it'll protect whatever's above it. Once again, you are making something like this. Yeah. Sorry, but I'm not going to redo the video. um, See, you're making something like that, which is a camp stove heater. They're made specifically to catch the flames from the camp stove, amplify it, and put out heat. And that's what you're making with one of these heaters I showed you how to make. Alright, I hope this helps you out, pattianne. Um, like I said, there are various ways you can produce things that will make heat, but you have to have some type of flame or electricity. You can do it through chemicals. You can mix certain chemicals together and have a reaction that creates heat. But I don't know anyone that stores chemicals like that or has enough chemicals like that to produce enough heat to survive a bad situation. And a lot of those chemicals that mixed are a bad idea. You really shouldn't be breathing those, or sometimes not even touching them. But once again, you can take stuff like this, a potato, wrap it in foil. Now, what do you do if you don't have foil? If you've been eating, save your empty cans. You can throw your potato in the empty can, throw it in a fire outside, heat that potato up. Then, when you get that potato out, get it out using a pot holder, throw another potato in the can. Leave the can in the fire. Throw another potato in the can. Let that potato get hot. Take the first one in the house and stick it up under your blankets. Alright? You have to be smart in a situation like that. But you don't have to be dangerous. Alright? That's why I recommend you buy, or not buy, but build a heat shield for any type of these heaters, including one of these. If you have one of these on a camp stove and you're using this in the house, I recommend you have a heat shield over it, because this does the same thing and it puts out a whole lot of heat through the top. And you can see here, see how that's all red on the inside? That's basically what's happening inside your DIY heater. It's getting extremely, extremely hot. Okay? But all this is coming out the top. A lot of that heat is coming out the top. Most of it actually is. Once again, you can't produce heat with nothing. You have to have flame, electricity, or some type of chemical reaction. So, asking me to create something that you can just make heat from out of stuff around your house, unless you're planning on burning your cabinets or burning your bed frame or whatever you have that's wood, and you plan on having a fire in your house, which I do not recommend, there's not much you can do other than just try your best to produce heat some other way. Like I said, you can use potatoes. You can produce heat in cans. If you don't open the cans, you can throw them in a fire outside, throw them in a barbecue pit, whatever, heat these cans up, heat the fluid up, take it out, take it in the house, and it's going to stay warm for a good while. Cat litter. You can fill that can up with cat litter if it was empty. You could get that extremely hot and bring it in the house. Now with that lid on it, it's going to cool down quicker, but cat litter will retain heat a lot longer than just having a can, okay? You can fill your can up with dirt and sand, gravel, anything that will absorb heat and then put it back out will help you in a situation. Alright, I'm fixing to go. Once again, this is for pattianne. I believe it's pascual. I apologize if I got that wrong. But maybe this will answer some of your questions. Like I said, you can't produce heat from nothing. Most people either have electricity or natural gas or propane on like a stove. But if your power's out, if you have no propane or natural gas, you're in a tough situation, because you will have no heat unless you have a small stove or some way to produce something with heat outside and then bring it in. Once again, a microclimate's your best bet. Close off a small corner of your house or apartment. Make it as small as possible to where you and however many people you got can fit in there comfortably. One, body heat's going to be a big deal. Two, anything that you can warm up or heat up to bring in that microclimate is going to produce some heat. All right, I hope this answers your questions. I did try to respond to you the best I could, but I figured I'd make this and talk to you about some things. You can't just, you know, take two plates or two bowls and create something to make heat. It just doesn't work that way. All right, that's it. I'm fixing to go. Everyone have a good day. Bye.